Hey, what's up guys, this is Ray and welcome to Asian Filmist, and I have another review of a video game adaptation for you guys today. And that movie is Higurashi no Naku Koro ni, or as some websites would have listed, Shrilling Cries of Summer. But it's based on the visual novel or even anime, which is listed as When They Cry, if I'm not mistaken. But I myself, I've seen the anime adaptations. I think there were like 2 seasons. At least what I've seen was 2 seasons. I haven't actually played the visual novel games, but I think for the most part I'm quite familiar with how the story is supposed to play out. And so this live action adaptation is directed by Oikawa Ataru and stars Maeda Goki, Asuka Rin, and Matsuyama Airi. And the story centers around this transfer student from Tokyo named Keiichi, who moves into this remote mountain village, and it's very rural. I mean, there's only one school that teaches kids all the way from elementary school to junior high school, which is what I think Keiichi is supposed to be. And for the most part, you know, it takes some time for him to adapt. He starts making friends and starts to enjoy his rural life. However, things start to change once he learns that in the village there are reports of grisly murders that happen every year, usually around the time of their summer festival. And once Keiichi learns about these murders, he starts to notice that things may not exactly be what they seem at first, and also his friends start to change for the creepier. So as far as the positives are concerned with Shrilling Cries of Summer, you know, I thought the atmosphere was creepy. I think this movie definitely needed a creepy atmosphere because that's what definitely was in the source material. It was creepy as all hell. And, you know, if I remember correctly, the anime was basically about killer lollies. There aren't so many killer lollies in this movie. So I think they kind of, that choice to make it more focused around junior high school kids versus younger kids. I think in the anime they might have been more late, like 6th grade or something like that. I'm not sure if they're actually junior high school students, but they definitely were in this movie. I also like the sound effects and also the cries of the cicadas. Higurashi is one species of cicada that you would hear during the summer. And also I appreciated the shots of the rural village. There were plenty of beautiful shots of gorgeous greenery and rural scenery that you can only experience if you ever visited the countryside here in Japan. And I thought the way this movie captured it was perfect. And if I were to have watched this movie for the first time without having known anything about the original game or the original anime, I would think that this movie has a lot of interesting mysteries happening for it. And just the plot, the way everything unravels, it's quite intriguing and definitely wants you knowing more. And there were definitely a number of queasy, uneasy, and creepy moments in the story. I mean, for those of you who have seen the anime or played the game, you know, there is a whole needle in the food, and there are even plenty of scenes where it shows some of Keiichi's friends stalking him when he's not looking, and when they reveal these scenes, I think it's genuinely creepy. As far as the negatives are concerned with this movie, I mean, I think there are a few. For one, I thought the acting, for the most part, needed a bit of work, and definitely more times than what I would desire. It definitely felt unnatural. And just the way the characters are written, there were times they did actions that were definitely not natural, especially for Japanese kids, even in the countryside, like kind of strolling through town, holding hands. I mean, Keiichi is with his 2 female friends, and he has one arm around the other, and he's holding the hand of the other. And, you know, I think it's just funny, like, you don't see any of that amongst the youths in Japan. Well, maybe nowadays might be different, but definitely at the time when this story was originally made, that kind of thing is a bit unheard of. I think for the most part, Japanese kids are a bit more conservative and shy, so you wouldn't see anything like Keiichi hugging 2 girls walking through the village like nothing is a big deal. And another thing, this movie isn't as violent as it should have been. I mean, I remember very grisly images from the anime, very bloody, involving a lot of stabby objects. This movie has a few of them, but I felt it could have used a lot more. And I don't know, this next negative is a bit unfair because the original story arc didn't really center too much on some of the other characters that get introduced in this story. For example, Satoko and Rika. However, the movie introduces them as what supposedly may be major players, like Satoko, her older brother, or there's a possibility he may be involved with some of the murders that happened in the history of the town. And Rika, her family runs the shrine where the annual festival is held, but they don't really dive more into it. Like they kind of introduce the characters, they introduce their roles to the story, but that's pretty much it. They don't follow through with any of it. So when you see these characters in the final act, they don't do anything. They don't really do anything much to kind of solidify their roles in the story. Granted, as I said, the story arc doesn't really focus around them, but you get to some story arcs later, they become more of a primary focus in the story. And for the most part, like I said, this movie just adapts the first arc, so it's understandable. If you know the source material, it's understandable why those characters aren't used so much in the story. But if you're a new time fan and you see, okay, there are these two girls, they're supposed to be important, but then later on you see that they're not really being used to that caliber, you kind of wonder, okay, why the hell were they in the story at all? They're just kind of undeveloped. They just kind of get left hanging there. But I think the biggest gripe I have with this live action adaptation is that, you take away the familiarity of the source material. I think just this standalone story arc, this standalone experience becomes kind of a generic J-horror movie, I feel. Like, there isn't really anything that makes it unique other than the kind of questions it imposes. However, I feel like there are a lot of elements in the source material that they could have used to make this live action interpretation a lot more interesting, but they didn't. And some of those elements, for you guys who are familiar with the source material, as the series goes on, you realize that the characters are kind of stuck in this loop, this kind of unending loop of limbo, if you will. And so the story arcs end with major characters dying, and then it restarts with everyone kind of alive again, and it starts from the beginning, even though it's like later on in the story. So it gets kind of confusing, becomes a total mindfuck. But that was something that was so fun in the original anime, but it didn't have any of that in this movie, and that's kind of disappointing. So overall, what I have to say, it's an okay adaptation. If you just think of it that, if you remember that they adapt only the first major arc, I think it's an okay adaptation. It's not the best, and it's not damn good, so that way you have to watch it, but I think it's okay. But like I said, if you're watching it as someone who has not experienced either the original games or the original anime, this comes off as kind of a generic J-horror flick. So because of that, I don't know if I'd recommend it, because honestly, there are many more exciting horror movies to be watched. I think overall, with this movie's pacing, it gets kind of slow. It doesn't really pick up until the kind of halfway mark of the story. I don't know if I'd recommend it because of that. And they did make a sequel, which admittedly I haven't seen yet, but I'm definitely looking to check out, hopefully by the end of this month, so I can review it for you guys. Yes, those are my thoughts on Shrilling Cries of Summer. What did you guys think? What kind of questions did you guys have? Let me know in the comment section below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. By all means, please support Asian Filmless on Patreon. It definitely helps the channel a lot. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you all again in the next video. Take it easy.